Welcome back to the podcast all about energy, vitality and motivation. I'm Tony Wrighton, and Shira Gill is all over our TV screens at the moment. She's a real expert in turning chaotic spaces into places of calm and order. And today she shares her belief in the power of less is more. I love chatting to Shira. I've had her on Zestology before. I immediately went off to tidy my place after recording this. I think you may do the same. The link between the sort of transformative world of decluttering and decluttering the brain, I think, is real. So today's podcast is a journey into creating spaces that not only look good, but feel good and support your lifestyle. That's today's Zestology. I hope you enjoy it. Here is Shira Gill. Shira, great to talk to you again. How are you?
Yeah, great to see you, and thanks for having me back.
Oh yeah, look, congratulations on your new book.
Thank you. Yeah, this was a very fun one to produce, involving a lot of travel.
Well, it's a beautiful book. I've been doing my research on it, and I've actually just been watching a video of you on ABC.
Yeah,
That's fun.
I was on the Today Show, which was insane. Live TV is not for the faint of heart.
Yeah, well, it was great. You looked very, very relaxed, and
Thank you.
there was a fun little segment, and I've sent it to my wife and said we need to do this all around our house.
Oh yeah, so fun, right?
Yeah. So tell people exactly what organized living is and why it's different from what you've written before.
Yeah. So my first book, Minimalista, really laid out my entire toolkit and ideology for how to edit and organize and style your home for the life that you wanted. And in the process of doing that book, I met, a lot of my colleagues and had occasion to tour their homes. And every home I saw was so different and so unique. And I found myself kind of prowling around and being nosy and asking, can I see how you organize this or that or the other thing? And so I just had this idea, wouldn't it be kind of a novel idea to create a book that showcased the real homes of the most organized people in the world, and really shared their toolkit and their philosophy and how they stay organized in real life at home, like not in an editorial magazine shoot, but like people who are juggling kids in real life and jobs. I wanted to show kind of the incredible range and diversity of what being organized can look like around the world.
Yeah, and of course you can do it with words, but it's so great if you can do it with lots of lovely pictures as well.
Exactly. Yeah. So I traveled around the world with a photographer, who
Great.
luckily
What a
was
gig.
game to, yeah, what a gig. I know everyone was asking her, how do you get this gig and go to, Paris and Lisbon and Mexico City? So we, packed up our carry-ons and went around the world. And, I interviewed each organizer and she photographed their home. We didn't bring any props. We didn't bring styling elements. So we really wanted to show their homes as they actually live and understand why they lived that way, why they made the decisions they made so that it could help readers.
Yeah. And this is why I wanted to record this podcast now, because we're obviously recording in early December. And I know you brought the book out a couple of months ago, but it's going to go out, if it's okay with you, at the start of January, when
Yeah,
I
that's
think
great.
people, I've always noticed from sort of things like book sales that January is a time where people get stuff done and they're like, right, I can stop partying now. I can start to focus on my diet and tidying up and sorting life out. And
Yes.
that is really hard, as you say, especially if you've got kids or you've got a lot of clutter. And God, I know from having moved house in the last few months, I was just shocked at how I don't consider myself a particularly sort of consumerist person. And the amount of
Right.
crap we threw out, it was really shocking.
Isn't it wild? I know I've moved in my life 25 times. And
Wow.
I think when you move that often and you're packing up and unpacking, you really start to see your stuff with fresh eyes. And
Yeah.
so I always say to someone, like, it's a good question if you're trying to figure out, do I want to keep this thing? Would I take it with me if I moved to a new home? And often
Yeah.
that'll keep you honest.
Yeah. And, as I said to you just before we started recording, we've lived in 3 countries this year: Thailand
Mm,
and London and now Portugal. And Thailand, we
yeah.
just went with 3 suitcases. And I
Wow.
promise you, there was not one time in 3 months when I said, oh, I wish we brought that from home. Didn't miss
Right?
anything.
I know. Isn't that wild? I mean, I only travel with a carry-on. I have two kids and a husband as well, and we have this carry-on rule because we just don't like the hassle of checking and dragging around excess stuff. And I find even with packing just a carry-on to go abroad, there's always things I don't use. I always feel like, oh, I could have brought even less than I thought.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. So that's pretty
Yeah.
impressive with kids. So is that like what about if you go on a longer trip, like a 2 week holiday or something like that?
Yeah. Only carry-on.
Oh my
Yeah.
God, you
So
are
here's
like,
my secret
yeah.
is like, so each person gets a carry-on. So we have four carry-ons for the four of us. And I basically go to each kid's room and I say, all right, we're going to pack you for 1 week. And then, you'll do laundry once, but ideally they have enough socks and underwear to get them through the whole trip.
Mm,
Everything else, like you can wear pants again, you can wear a sweatshirt again. So, and then the heaviest thing you always wear on the plane. So depending on what season you're traveling, even in winter, we've done 2 weeks in a carry-on. You wear your, big hat and parka on the plane, which is a bit annoying, but then you can really just have a handful of tops and bottoms and toiletries in your carry-on.
yeah. And I do
Possible.
really, I do file all of this under sort of wellness actually because there's something
Yeah.
incredible. We've downsized. We're living in a 2 bed flat here in Portugal, and we were living in a 3 bed house in London, and I couldn't be happier. And it's so liberating having a little bit less space and
Yeah.
and it all nice and tidy and not too much stuff. And I remember you saying your home is quite small, isn't it? And you've just got
It
it
is
perfectly
by
organized.
Yeah, by American standards, it's quite small.
Okay, so it's
So
it's
right.
actually 7 bedrooms
Yeah, yeah, it's
and
palatial, really. No, we have three small bedrooms. We have two closets for our entire home, and our home was built over 100 years ago, so it's quite tight on storage. We don't have a garage. We don't have an attic. Our basement is this tiny post-it size room that just can have a handful of bins and some paint cans. So it really keeps us honest. I share a closet with my husband. My girls share one tiny closet and that's it. And I have found it's really been useful because the boundaries of our space really dictate how much stuff we can keep. Whereas, I've helped clients all over the world, and some people do have these massive palatial homes and they have so much storage and they kind of expand to fill whatever space they have.
yes.
Right. And it's just this sort of interesting human dynamic where, like, whatever space you have, you're just going to grow and expand and fill it.
Mm,
So I always say to those people, even though you have the space, it's still up to you what you want to fill it with, or even if you want to fill it at all. Like, space can feel quite liberating.
mm. Yeah, Paulo Coelho. Have you heard about his space?
No, no.
I think I'm right in saying that he lives or lived in Geneva and bought a massive apartment in Geneva and filled it with nothing.
Oh,
It's just,
that's so
it's basically
cool.
empty, there's like a
Oh,
chair or
how
something.
funny. That's a chair. Yeah, I don't know how practical that is. I'm going to have to look that up now. But I will tell you, in this book, when I was researching, there are three people featured in the book who live in less than 300 square feet. Um, I don't know the
Wow.
translation. That's obviously American, but there's one woman who lives with her husband in an Airstream trailer that's 200 square feet. And she went from having a very large, American home, 300 pairs of shoes, to
Yeah.
whittling down to this tiny little home on wheels. And what she talks about is the incredible sense of freedom and
Mm,
liberation that she feels, and that her life has improved on every level.
yeah. And of course, the other thing about that is that it's not just the physical space and the physical clutter and simplification of life, but also in a lot of cases, you've got less debt because you've got less of a big house that you're paying off.
Precisely. And in fact, her and her husband paid off all of their debt when they downsized. And so they went from feeling like completely overrun and overwhelmed by clutter and debt to having this sense of total freedom and liberation. They travel all over the country, they meet their friends, they have barbecues, they go camping. And she said her life has just expanded in so many ways. Like, she's maximized her life by minimizing the things that she owned.
And did you go to some houses which were a lot bigger than yours? And did you sort of think, oh, it'd be quite nice to have a bit more space like this as well?
Well, I have mudroom envy. And so there were some homes that had these really expansive entryways with, like the big storage lockers where each child had a cubby for their bag and their shoes and their boots. That certainly instilled some level of envy, but really across the board, the 25 people that I interviewed, even the ones who would consider themselves more on the maximalist side, they all kind of expressed this longing for less to manage, less to maintain, less to organize, all of them, every single one without exception. And I think a lot of it is a result of, everyone I interviewed for this book is a professional organizer, which means we spend our days in people's homes, on our hands and knees, going through the junk drawer and the sock drawer. And I think when you're dealing with people's stuff all day, my experience at least is then you come home and you just want a clean slate. Like you just feel like stuff becomes oppressive. And so everyone that I interviewed said, what I found is the less you own, the more ease you have in your life, the more freedom, the more creativity, the greater productivity. And that was across the board, even people who enjoyed having more stuff, certainly than I did, or valued collections or sports, like I'm lucky because we're not a very athletic family, which means we have no camping gear or like lacrosse or baseball. So there were families where it was like, we have these things because they add value to our lives, but we're really on a mission to get down to the essentials just simply because it creates so much ease and freedom in your life.
Wow. That's amazing, isn't it? All 25 of them really saying the same thing.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, really every single one. And even, so the first organizer in the book, Tinka, she loves color and she loves collections, and her husband is a minimalist. And so they had to kind of find how are we going to navigate these very different ideologies and aesthetics. And even she said, I love my collections. I love having art. But what they figured out is that it could create so much visual clutter that she ended up designing a home to have all concealed storage, so that these big white cabinets that blended into their walls, so that when they were eating or working or sleeping, their eyes could be at rest and they wouldn't feel overstimulated by stuff.
Yeah. And that message about the stuff, it's sort of the opposite of the message that society, that our culture tells us, which is, buy more stuff, it'll make you happy.
Yes, it is precisely the opposite. And I think that really is the mission of my work, is to teach people kind of the liberation of less and the freedom of less. And for me, I do consider myself a minimalist, and I'm a mom, and I run a business, from my dining room table with nothing more than a laptop. And I can tell you, having less stuff has improved my finances, my health, my sleep, my relationships. It's enabled me to travel and host and do all of the things that are meaningful and valuable. For me, there has been zero downside to intentionally living with less.
Yeah.
Interrupting this podcast for one moment to remind you that it is brought to you by my friends at BIOptimizers. I am so pleased to partner with them again, refocusing in January after the madness of the holiday season, which seemed to go on for absolutely months. And as well as focusing on diet, stress and sleep, I'm focusing on supplements as well. And I've been taking their magnesium a lot as things come to an end because, well, it helps you fall asleep, stay asleep and wake up refreshed. It doesn't help you go to bed on time. But if you can do that bit, it will help you stay asleep. At least it really does for me as well. It is the only full spectrum magnesium supplement with 7 unique forms of magnesium that your body can actually use and absorb. I exclusively recommend Magnesium Breakthrough. And, if you're struggling to return to your health routine in 2024, I have a lesson to share, and that is focus on the big stuff. Prioritize healthy eating, exercise, stress reduction, and above all, really good quality sleep. And that involves taking a good supplement like Magnesium Breakthrough. and then going to bed on time. I can't help you with the second bit, but I can help you with the magnesium breakthrough. If you're interested in taking that supplement that I have been talking about for a long time on this podcast, you can head over to BIOptimizers.com/Zestology. That is BIOptimizers.com/Zestology, and use the code Zestology10. So it's Zestology10 for 10% off. This podcast is also brought to you by my online program, the Healthy AF Method, the mindset method that transforms your health. And it's been brilliant. It's been so exciting doing this in 2024 because we've got an online community and I speak to a lot of people individually as well because it's on WhatsApp, so people can just slide into my DMs if they've got a question. And it's just been so brilliant refocusing on all of this stuff at the start of 2024. It is the chance to heal, optimize, and transform your health with NLP and energy psychology. This is my proven signature health mindset program, and I would love you to come and join me and embark on a transformation in 2024. Head to TonyWrighton.com/healthy if you're interested in taking part. I'd absolutely love to welcome you. And again, if you use the code Zestology10, you can get 10% off just by being a listener to Zestology. Just to let you know what we work on in this transformative program, it is all about using NLP to transform your health and your life by embarking on a health transformation, helping your healing and living the healthy AF lifestyle. And I think also I would say elevating our health IQ. It's really, really important that, it's emotionally and mentally what's going on when you think about health affects so much what's going on physically. And if you can start to set and achieve health milestones by using this stuff, that is really satisfying. So it's TonyWrighton.com/healthy. Use the code Zestology10 for 10% off that, 10% off the magnesium breakthrough as well. And I'd love you to come and join us in January. This is the time when we all reset and refocus, and I'd love to be a part of that with you. That's it. Back to the show.
Well, on that theme, I've got a few specific questions I wanted to ask you about. And that is, firstly, that I sort of think that me and my wife broadly agree with you on that in terms of minimalism and living with less. And we obviously have downsized and we're perfectly happy. We don't miss anything. And yet, every few months we have the same discussion, which is basically, we want to be minimalists, but the stuff in our house is increasing. Oh yeah, here's what we'll do. We'll do a 1 in, 1 out policy and that'll be fine. And then we forget about it. We never actually do it. Is 1 in, 1 out actually possible? And if not, what should we do to maintain that minimalism?
Yeah, I mean, I'm a big fan of the 1 in, 1 out rule. I think once you've gotten your home to a place that feels good and manageable and maintainable, then kind of like, this is our baseline. This is where we always kind of roughly want to come back to. So prior to, we're talking in December, prior to the holidays, if you're celebrating Christmas or Hanukkah or any holiday where there's going to be a big influx of stuff, I preemptively like to do a declutter with my family and my kids, even before. So to say, hey, we know people are going to give us gifts. We're going to buy the kids gifts. Instead of just adding more and more to the equation, we want to scoop out a little bit so that when it comes in, we have the space already and we're not just drowning. In terms of the 1 in, 1 out, what I do, so I still love stuff as a minimalist. I love design, I love decor, I love clothes. And so because we live in a small space and I share a small closet with my husband, we have a certain amount of hangers that fit neatly in our space with a little bit of space in between each hanger. So if I go, say, and buy a new blouse, I don't have a hanger to put it on unless I get rid of a blouse. And so to me, that's kind of a fun little trick because I'm not going to toss a new blouse on the floor. So I actually have to pick something. And so then when I'm shopping, I'm sort of forced to ask myself the question, is it worth it to get rid of something I already own so that I can bring this new thing in? Like if I'm buying a pair of shoes, I know I don't have a spot on my shoe shelf and I don't want to just create a big mountain of shoes in my home because that will drive me crazy. So before I buy, I kind of have that little check and balance, I guess, of is it worth it to now get rid of something to bring this new thing in?
Yeah, that's nice.
It also, I was going to just say it also really helps people to think about, do I appreciate the space more or the stuff more? And for some of my clients, the answer is I would rather have more stuff, even if my home looks a little bit more cluttered or haphazard. It's worth it to me. And I don't judge that. That's like everyone has their own standard, right?
Mm.
For me, if I walk in and I see a big pile of shoes and a mountain of coats, it's going to make me feel stressed out. So I know that about myself. And so I can kind of make those decisions. I don't think of it as restriction or limiting myself, but rather I think I'm giving myself the gift of a very beautiful, curated, streamlined home. That's what I want to stare at. And so if I just keep buying more and more and more, it's going to feel cluttered and stressful.
Yeah. And how do you approach it when one person living in a house values that a lot and others maybe don't?
Yeah. This is the number one question I get. And I wish I had the brilliant solution, because I think the solution everyone really wants is, how do I convince others to be more like me? Right?
Yeah, exactly.
I wish I had that magic bullet. What I find, so I'm certainly on the extreme in my family, right? Like, I want everything to be super minimal, super tidy. My husband could care less. My kids enjoy it, but they don't care nearly as much as I do, right? And so, I've decided, because I care much more about this than others, I will put in more work.
Yeah.
So I will set up the systems. I will set up an entry and say, hey, here's a basket for your shoes. Here's a hook for your coat. Will you please just do me a favor and use these systems? It will make me very happy. And so, there's number one, like setting it up, trying to make it easy, and asking. That can fail, to be honest. Like, some people just aren't wired in that way. Like, my husband has ADHD. He gets distracted easily. So sometimes I'm like, you know what? He dumped his coat. It's driving me crazy. I'm going to hang it up because it bothers me. It doesn't bother him. It's not his issue.
Yeah.
So I think, instead of getting into the blame game and kind of the resentfulness in the relationship, if the person who wants to be more tidy and more organized can really take that on, and of course you can make requests of your family, but demands certainly don't work. Manipulations don't work. I think the best strategy I've seen is simply walking the walk and demonstrating what you want to see. And I always will say to people, have you thoroughly edited and organized all of your things before you talk to your family about anything?
Yeah.
Have you gone through your own clothes, your own memorabilia, your own photos, your own stuff from university? And 90% of the time they're like, oh, no, I haven't. So it's much easier to blame the other people and be like, oh, the house is a mess, get it together. But if you say, you know what, it's driving me crazy, I'm going to go tackle all of my stuff, sometimes people will get into the spirit with you.
Yeah, it's a bit like when your friend says, how do I persuade my wife to go to therapy? And you think, well, mate, you might just have to do it yourself.
Exactly. I know. Yeah, it's tricky to convert other people. Although I will say, after I've been with my husband for 23 years, and he would never describe himself as an organized person, but he has kind of learned just through osmosis and living with me. And he has said, I never would have thought that I needed this or wanted this. But now that I've lived in a home that's so minimal and organized, I feel it. Like, I feel that it's added this degree of ease to my life that I didn't know I was missing. So sometimes if you can create that for family members as a gift, instead of nagging them to try to create something that they don't even know they need or care about, it's a much better tactic.
And then, just on the minimalism theme, the other experience that I've had this year is that you do start, when you do a big clear out like we have, you do start to appreciate the true value of what something is actually worth. And that is because you spend all this money on clothes or tech or whatever it might be, and then you think, oh, I could sell that, and you can't.
Nobody wants it.
Nobody wants it. And we were ending up selling stuff for sort of £5 on Facebook Marketplace, which we bought for 100. And you just think that's the actual value of this thing.
Totally. People grossly overestimate what their belongings are worth. And I always say, like, whatever you bought something for, like, the most you will possibly get for it will be a third of what you paid. And that's on the very high end.
Mm,
So really think about before you spend your precious time trying to peddle your wares to other people. Is it worth my time? What am I actually going to recover from this item? And for me, 9 times out of 10, it just feels better to donate it, even if it's very nice, very high quality. It feels great to be generous and to say, you know what? This is a really nice, high quality thing. I don't use it. It's not bringing me value. If you want it, you just take it. Because as you said, people will spend hours photographing things and listing them, and then you're haggling online. And I just say, is it really worth your time? Another little trick for that is you can decide a value that would be worth it. So maybe it's like, if I can get £100 for an item or more, it's then worth my time to try to sell it. But if it's less than £100, I'm just going to let it go and not look back.
yeah. Yeah. We dropped so much stuff off at the charity shop, and you sort of think, are they actually going to make use of this? I hope they do, but
Yeah, I often encourage people, instead of, here it's like Goodwill and Salvation Army, and they've just become such dumping grounds because Americans have so much stuff that they're actually running out of space, the charity shops. And so I really encourage people to use your local network, like your neighborhood groups or your charity groups, or asking friends or colleagues or people in your community. I give often to my kids' schools, toys or puzzles or games. I'll give libraries, our books or our old
Great.
CDs or media, but really trying to find a place within your local community that could use it. Even a theater sometimes is a great place to donate, because they're putting on productions and they need props. And so those random things you don't know what to do with can have a good home there.
Yeah. And then briefly tell me about the bathroom organizers that you were doing on ABC on the Today Show. That looked brilliant.
Oh, yeah. And sorry, it was actually Good Morning America.
Oh, Good Morning America. Sorry.
No. So I was on Good Morning America sharing hacks from this book, and the bathroom one. So I'm in this tiny bathroom with my family of 4. We have 2 tiny drawers for our entire family. And so what I realized is, especially now during cold and flu season, you don't want all those toothbrushes commingling. It's really germy and gross. And so just repurposing like a flatware divider from your kitchen. Each person gets this mini compartment where they can put their toothbrush, their toothpaste, their floss, and maybe a couple of other tiny things. And then there's the division between. So there's a physical boundary, which is very helpful when you have 2 teenagers and a husband in an itty bitty space to say, like, at least this sliver of real estate is mine.
Yeah. Well, I can honestly say that when I interviewed you last time, I guess it was a couple of years ago when we talked, I immediately went and tidied up so much, and I'm pretty much going to do the same tonight as well.
I love that. Yeah, it gets a fire in your belly, right? I think just thinking about, I always tell people, like, instead of making decluttering or organizing a chore, think about it as a tool you can leverage to help get the results you want in your life. So I find it really useful and valuable to think about, what do I want to create in my life? What are the new results I want to create this year, for my family or my health or my career? And then how can my home help support those things?
Yeah.
And if you think about it through that lens, then it's not really like this feeling of letting go or breaking up with your stuff. Rather, it's, I'm going to create space for the thing that I want most.
That's great.
It's a mental shift.
Yeah. So I asked you this before, but what is one book that's had an impact on you, and one tip for living with more energy and vitality?
Ooh. So I love The Compound Effect. I hope I didn't say that last time, but it's a book I come back to again and again. It's a book really just about how small, smart, consistent action can change your life. So I think it kind of debunks that, like, overnight success or overnight transformation, but it's really like, in the home realm, like, if you just deal with your mail every day for 2 minutes, you're never going to have a mountain of mail, right? If you just knock out your laundry every week on Sunday, you're never going to have to face this monster of laundry.
Yeah.
And so I love applying that, both in my work, but also in my life, like thinking about exercise can be really daunting. But if you walk every day for 15 minutes, then think about the hours and hours every month that you're moving your body. So that's a book I come back to again and again for inspiration. And what was your other question?
The other question was, what is one tip for living with energy and vitality? I mean, it's a sort of something I ask everyone, and I have a guess on what theme your tip might be on, but let's see.
Well, yeah, I mean, certainly minimalism would be the obvious answer, but I would say this new ritual that I have is that I wake up and instead of running to my phone, I drink a glass of water and I take a walk outside.
Ooh,
and so I do that
nice.
every day. And instead of kind of immediately being bombarded by stimulation from the outside world, hydrating is always good. So I wake up and I have a glass of water. That's like 3 seconds, right?
Yeah.
And then my rule is I just have to walk for 15 minutes. I love a 15-minute win because it doesn't feel daunting.
Yeah.
So even if my day is totally packed or I have to take my kids to school, I just get outside. So I get fresh air, I get to see nature, and I get to move my body for 15 minutes every day and just kind of clear my brain first thing.
Lovely. Yeah. Very good. It's harder than ever, isn't it? With you say, oh my God, what am I missing on my phone?
I know. I mean, it's so addictive. For that reason, I don't sleep with my phone in my bedroom, and I won't let my kids do that as well. Because I just feel like going to bed with the phone and waking up with the phone, your brain just feels overstimulated all the time.
Yeah.
So it's really difficult, especially when your work involves, your phone or social media. But I find even that 15 minutes, like just having that little reset in the morning that's not plugged in, can feel really game changing.
Yeah, I do that as well. And it's so weird, isn't it? Because of all the sort of tips and hacks and techniques, that's probably the thing that has the biggest impact on the bottom line of health and wellness.
Yeah.
If you got, I don't have the self-control not to check it last thing in the night, first thing in the morning, and sometimes in the middle of the night as well. I just don't.
Totally. Yeah, I should mention one other book resource for your listeners is a book called 24/6.
Oh, yeah.
And it's about the power of unplugging one day a week. So the author Tiffany Shlain has spent 10 years with her family unplugging every Friday night to Saturday night. So they have 24 hours as a family completely unplugged from all technology. And during that time, they read, they walk, they cook, they relax, they make art. And she said it's completely shifted the fabric of their lives. And she actually works in technology.
Yeah.
She's a filmmaker, so she's plugged in all the time. But that digital detox once a week for 24 hours, she swears by. So that's something kind of on my list to try.
That's so good. And we did that a few times in London. And I tell you where it fell down for me. I'd be driving across London. I'd be thinking, oh God, I need Google Maps to get. It's so stupid, isn't it? But it's just like so hard without it,
I know. What did we do before Google Maps? I don't even know.
Well, Shira, look, where can people find the book and everything else about you?
Yeah. So my books are Minimalista and Organized Living. They're available worldwide wherever books are sold. So you can get it from your indie bookseller or online on Amazon or any of those bigger booksellers. And you can follow along. My website is shiragill.com. I have a free newsletter and community with loads of tips and at Shira Gill on social.
Oh, great. I don't know if I'm on your newsletter, so I'm going to go and sign up.
Oh, you got to get on. I'm doing a Declutter Your Life challenge right now.
Oh, great.
Super fun.
All right. Yeah. I will. Shira, great to talk to you. Thanks so much.
Great to see you. Thanks.
So, pretty much it for today's Zestology. Are you already tidying up and decluttering and minimalizing? I thought you might be. I definitely was after speaking to Shira. Thanks for listening to this Zestology. It's been a very busy month so far. Lots of new signups for the Healthy AF method. If you are interested in the mindset method to improve your health, then go to tonywrighton.com/healthy. And I am so pleased to partner again with BIOptimizers after the festive holiday season comes to an end. Oh, it was a punishing season. A lot of mince pies, too many. And I've been taking their magnesium a lot and really refocusing on my sleep. I mean, I did have a great holiday season. It's a chance to take a break from the daily grind, and it was blooming lovely, to be quite honest. But when that season winds down, it's time to get back on track with our health. And I do think focusing on the big stuff, healthy eating, exercise, and above all, quality sleep is really important. And that is why I exclusively recommend Magnesium Breakthrough. If you head over to BIOptimizers.com/Zestology, you'll use the code Zestology10 at checkout, and you can get Magnesium Breakthrough and all the other BIOptimizers supplements with 10% off. So it's BIOptimizers.com/Zestology. Enter the code Zestology10 at checkout, you'll get 10% off. And as I say, definitely time to refocus. And that's not just diet and supplements, it's tidying up as well, which is why I had Shira on. Thanks so much for listening to Zestology. Great to have you with me as always, and I really appreciate it. And I will see you next week.